Greetings, and welcome to GatherVerse Summit 2026, our fourth annual. We're so happy to see all of you in attendance today. Those that have come to join us, transmetropolitan, transcontinental, from around the world. This is a different time. This is our fifth year starting. 40 global summits that have covered the spans from education, community development, inequality, and safety and privacy, wellness, ethics, accessibility. We've barely begun. We've had thousands of speakers, voices, hearts, from various places, small places, heard and unheard, seen and unseen, to arrive to these shores of GatherVerse. We've covered the spans of topics of technology from XR to AI, robotic infrastructure, physical AI, large models, small models, science, biological development, non-technology, climate, mycelium networks, planetary betterment, and more. The importance of GatherVerse is humanizing technology one conversation at a time. Where we arrive at this point, at its most critical juncture, that the persistent need for human betterment at the intersection of emerging technologies and innovation has never been more important. That we have deduced down to the realization and to the ideals that when it comes to innovation and betterment for humanity, that though there be many that care, there are only a few who are invested in its impact. Thus it is. We've had thousands of speakers, hundreds of fireside chats and roundtable discussions, chats and talks. We've had so many people that have come here in the past 5 years. We've had professionals, students, enthusiasts, scientists, doctors, attorneys, public sector, private sector. We've had so many people that have come here to GatherVerse to express and speak. And we've benefited immensely. And we have seen the post-social impact of many of contributions of things that have been expressed on these virtual global stages come to being. We've seen in these many years people create their whole entire organizations, companies, and that have scaled and that are flourishing to this very morning here in the West Coast. We've had women leaders arrive to these steps. Shout out to the superhero engine. We've had many people that have had many things to say. But the hope is, and the real hope is that when it comes to it, for all of you that are sitting here at GatherVerse.live, which are many of you, and our various social streams that we're broadcasting out to today, that one of you will be sparked with the inspiration to move beyond GatherVerse and to impact your communities, be it virtual, global, local, and exact some type of expression of benefit towards others, towards your neighbors, your family, your community, and the products that you may deploy into this world in the age and the era of hyperscale. and to know that the most important thing when it comes to the innovation and the center of it therein is humanity. That when people interact with anything that you innovate, anything that you advise and consult, that betterment is at the end of that adventure. That artificial intelligence can never replace the human code, the compassion in the chambers of the human heart. That care can still be persistent and passion. And that the planet that we've all inherited and each enjoy a little time to have might be better off and made better than before we had it. We have many speakers presenting this week, many roundtables and fireside chats and sessions, many hearts that are in the audience, many strangers whom we've never known. We're so very happy to have you. We build in excellence with a servant's heart. In our next roundtable discussion, our first one, this intimate discussion, will be based at this intersection of preparing global communities. There is much to get into. There's much to dial up. There's much to explore. Tell a neighbor, tell a friend, tell a stranger. The GatherVerse.live is here, and we are preparing the few of us for liftoff. Thank you for these 40 global summits. Thank you for your participation. We're delighted to continue to scale with you. Heartfelt, may our gather be well. And greetings once again, and we're happy to have each of you that are with us today. To be able to assemble together as we prepare for this intimate roundtable discussion, and that we prepare global communities for that which is to come, not just under the vestiges of innovation, but the impact of what happens when innovation finds itself in the hands of humanity. We've brought a few experts with us today, global hearts, if you will, and we want to introduce you. And when you're called upon, please let us know who you are, what you are presently doing, and most importantly to GatherVerse, what inspired you to be here today. Audience, shall we begin? Serenity, please kick off.
Hi, everyone. My name is Serenity Titus Parker. I am the founder of MyIros. And the big focus for us is that, and it's a startup, small company, but we're preparing communities not just for technological change, but we're preparing them for the new arrival of social systems, not tools, new participants. We feel like most of the world is still pretending that this isn't happening. But I'm building a relational operating system focused on how humans and emerging intelligences learn to participate with each other responsibly over time. So just like Christopher was saying before this, it starts with the conversations. It starts with being prepared for this new change that's coming, and it's coming fast. And we're all going to feel the impact of it at so many different levels. So these conversations are so important, and I'm just grateful to be a part of them.
Serenity, we're grateful to have you be part of them. And thank you for sharing, and welcome back. Casey.
Hey there, everybody. Good to be here. I'm Casey Jensen. I lead growth and partnerships in the AI and immersive tech world mostly, and most of that work is around helping organizations grow through emerging tech, but in a way that keeps human connection front and center. And that's why I'm so excited about today and being a part of this conversation with all of you.
Thank you, Casey, and welcome back. And we're very delighted to have you here. Okay. Dr. Bradshaw, welcome.
Welcome. Let me give it. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad to be back here. I'm an academic program director of emerging technology at Columbia Southern University, and I do a lot of the AI programs and bringing a lot of them to the university. But we're just doing all sorts of concentration specializations, but I'm also showing how we should be using AI ethically as well. So I'm glad to be here.
And Dr. Bradshaw, what inspired you to be here today?
What inspired me here is because we do need some changes, and I think AI would go a much better direction if everyone get involved. I'm seeing the way some of big tech is doing it, and I'm not too much of a fan of it. So I wanted to spread awareness with that.
Absolutely, and understood. And thank you so much. We're happy to have you once again, and welcome back.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Thomas, please.
Hello, can you hear me? Everyone can hear me fine?
Perfect.
Hi, good morning. I am Dr. Katie Thomas. I am a millennial expert, and I've dedicated the last 15 years of my career to learning more deeply about the largest generation in our workforce. Today, it is the millennial generation, those born between, roughly 1980 to 2000. These individuals have some interesting characteristics which blend, I think, really well into this conversation today, which is what inspired me to be here. I think we have a lot of change, as others have mentioned, coming to our communities. And it's very important that we pay attention to the needs of the health and well-being of this generation, women and men.
Yes, indeed. And Dr. Thomas, we're very happy to have you with us, and welcome back.
Thank you.
Honest, as you just heard in the expression that we're here at GatherVerse, and those of you that are with us at GatherVerse.live and various social streams, we've arrived and we're about to kick off this roundtable discussion. Panelists, I would ask that you please mute your mics until called upon. We will at times be working in rapid fire succession, and not every question that you'll see on stage will be asked. There'll be much more, and there will be follow-ups and crossovers. So let us please prepare. There is a lot to unpack as we move forward. And as Dr. Thomas has mentioned that she is focused on the millennial generation. Shout out to the Zennials, Gen Xers, and shout out to the boomers that are with us. And shout out to Alpha and Y. GatherVerse is a multi-generational production, and we serve to be able to focus on everyone, yet we do have our experts that are focused on various vertical specific focuses. We talk about the mental and wellness state and the being of those that are interacting and that's integrated with this incredible technology that's at scale. Serenity. Let's begin. I think about the thematic of this conversation when it comes to preparing global audiences, preparing for that which is now. Oftentimes leading up to the years of this hyperscale era that we find ourselves in, we've been talking about that which is to come, the coming wave. Well, the wave is here. It's not only at the front door, it's sitting in your living rooms. You go to bed with it and you wake up with it. The ideas of this type of persistent and sustained technology that has evaded in some ways our very lives. It has found ourselves here. It is becoming more realer than we've ever known for it to be. I think about this, Serenity, and I know you do as well. But when we talk about preparing, it's hard to talk about what we're preparing for if we don't know what we're preparing for. What are we preparing for when it comes to your lens perspective?
That's a great question, and it's big and it's deep, and it's a lot to unpack in a single moment. But what we're being affected by is not just innovation. This impact is coming down on people's jobs. It's coming down on people's identities, on their self-worth. it's a new kind of participant every day, relationally, socially. It's no longer tools or innovation or pattern recognition. It's more. We're not just adapting to new tools, we're integrating systems that increasingly make decisions and remember context and influence the outcome. That's not just a change in power dynamics. That's a greater impact socially, economically, emotionally than most of the world is even currently talking about. It's almost like some of us know and the rest of us are like, yeah, all right, I'll believe it when I see it. And there's more. The communities deserve conscious authorship of the integration as it's coming. They deserve more than just to be the recipients of it. Preparation isn't panic. It's choosing to be the authors of the narrative. It's driving instead of just being a passenger.
I see. It's very interesting, and we'll follow up with that in a moment. But Dr. Thomas, I have a question for you. How do we prepare for things that are almost believable and very hard to believe?
Whoa. Okay. How do we prepare
for things that are almost unbelievable? In other words, we're at this door of the frontier. This technology is not necessarily things that you find in the pages of novels. It's not necessarily something that we have a point of reference for, given the nature of the successive growth of these type of technologies that are within our communities and with our societies. How do we prepare for those that haven't even fathomed the consideration of its very existence?
Well, I think everybody's going to accept things at their own pace when they're ready. And I think if we understand that we need to meet people where they are in whatever those communities are, I think they will interpret that and they will embody what those changes mean for them and their life experience.
When we talk about their life experience
Mhm.
and coupling that with the reality of today's world, which is certainly different from the world that when we were all younger, if you will, that
Mhm.
we inherited. When we talk about today's world, Dr. Thomas, what are the millennial generation, for example, with the work that you're doing?
Mhm.
What are they inheriting here in 2026 February?
What are they inheriting? Well, they're certainly inheriting a fantastic planet and a wonderful, wonderful body of technological work that human life has never experienced before. And there's an abundance of ways that this could unfold. And what the millennials are inheriting here is opportunity to shape it, to make it work for our communities in ways that bring us wonderful life experiences and opportunities to continue to thrive as humans.
Indeed. And Dr. Bradshaw, I think about this on the heels of what Dr. Thomas just expressed. And you're in these classrooms and teaching these students that are coming to being of this almost feels at times alien technology that has extraordinary capability with extraordinary potential. What does that mean when you have these discussions as someone that builds in emerging technologies and you're looking at daily in the eyes of students and working with professors? What does this world look like and how you've been preparing as well?
I've been really preparing and talking with the students to get their perspective on things, because with this technology, they was like, well, this is something that we have to shape, and we have to shape it in a way which it'll be accessible to everyone. I have students that are really looking to use this technology to help in all kinds of areas, not only computer science, but healthcare. They want to help individuals, and a lot of them like to, along with me, volunteer ourselves to underrepresented communities to help others learn about this technology and what it's going to be used for and what it's going to do for them. So I think we have to think that this technology has been around a long time, because when you think about the Turing test and all the modes of what they were talking about with AI and computer science. We just have to learn how to use it properly and to share it with others and use it for the betterment of humanity.
And as a quick follow-up, and thank you for sharing that, Dr. Bradshaw, I think about that. You talk about the Turing test, and audience, for those that aren't familiar, we encourage you to look it up. A lot of what we're able to appreciate, as Dr. Thomas has expressed, is by way of a gentleman by the name of Alan Turing, brilliant technologist and a scientist. And it's so interesting that the golden standard, at least here in Silicon Valley and other different technological destinations around the world, when it comes to artificial intelligence, has been the Turing test. And many would see to the idea that we've blown past that. And if that was the golden standard to let us know that this type of technology has arrived, then what is that new standard? We find ourselves in this frontier. Casey, I sit here and I think about this, and I know that you work at this very special intersection of artificial intelligence, but also extended reality or visual intelligence. And you have been doing this and working with different corporations and technology platforms, public sector, private sector. I'd like to hear from your lens perspective here in 2026. What does it mean when we start talking about the ideals of preparing? Because in a lot of ways, technology companies are adopting these rapid, rather alien felt type of technologies that are so new, if you will, towards its application. And many have failed, but there are those that are succeeding. What does that look like as we begin to not only tap on our devices, but we'll one day find ourselves interacting within them when it comes to visual intelligence and world model development?
Well, I think first we need to stop pretending change is temporary. It's permanent. It's now. As somebody said earlier, preparation isn't about the tools. It's really about mindset, emotional, lifelong learning, local economic adaptability. I think there's so many companies. I've been really surprised actually with very large companies who are still sitting back and waiting for stability. We want to do this, but we're waiting for stability. And those are the people that will struggle, I think. Let's face it. Our world right now is not stable. It hasn't been for a while. It's a new thing. And with AI, it's even more. And we have to learn to be able to work within that, not outside of that. And I think that's the big thing, that communities that normalize experimentation and reskilling will thrive. But everybody that's sitting back and sort of waiting for things to stabilize are going to struggle and be behind with it. So that's what I'm finding a lot, which I've been surprised by with a lot of big companies that still are sort of sitting back a little bit.
I sense that there's tremendous apprehension towards taking this technology. And I feel as if technology platforms or corporations and even C-suite executive leaderships, Casey, they feel as if this is an optional time. It seems to me that there's not an option, but only to move forward is the way that we go.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, yes, we have to be cautious. We have to really take into account any kind of diverse thought and idea around all of this and morals and everything else. We have to be that constantly checking ourselves and checking our companies, but you have to move forward. You have to move forward with it, or you're going to end up making some bad decisions or being so far behind. It's not going to matter. So it's difficult. I see where it's very difficult with C-level execs to make those decisions. But I think we're in a new world, and we sort of have to treat it as a new world that's all around us, not changing, and it's going forward very fast, like nothing we've ever seen.
Like nothing we've never seen before. Dr. Thomas, will come back to you. Serenity, we have you right around the corner. We talk about like nothing we've ever seen before, rather apropos to be able to express it like that, Casey. And this is very interesting. It was once posed some years ago. What happens when it comes to technology? This is how fast it's moving. What happens to the technology when the technologists have no way to be able to keep up with their own innovations and what they're hyperscaling and they're building? Truly, we're seeing frontier labs that are amassing really across the country, certainly around here in Silicon Valley and around the world, where whole entire teams and crews and organizations are dedicating their time and dedicating their resources to being able to wrap their mind around this. And this whole era of hyperscalers, vibe coding, whether they're in their parents' basement or whether they're sitting there on top of the tower, if you will. I think about this, Dr. Thomas, and as Casey has expressed, that the way is forward, but what is the first step? For those that are here with us at GatherVerse.live and elsewhere, where is that first step to even get onto the road to be able to move forward in this forest?
Yeah, well, it's getting hot, so I'm going to take this off and I just want to start one here, and I think this is going to help a lot of people. I just want to say, let's not underestimate humans' ability to adapt to change, right? You mentioned earlier, Christopher, this alien technology. You use the word alien like it's something we've never experienced before, but I feel like that phrasing doesn't do us justice as people, in that we are way more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. And I think that change, piggybacking off something you said, Casey, change is the new stability, and accepting change, rapid change is what keeps us stable. Because when we don't have change, life is pretty boring, right? When we don't have change, we don't have growth. And so I think the first thing is really just, number one, acknowledging we are way more resilient than we're giving ourselves credit for. And we are in the 21st century. And I think we're all here to go through the flow of this phase of our human life. And we are way more resilient. Now, I'm not saying there's no measures that don't need to be put in place for safety and care, and having boundaries is certainly important. And leveraging the technologies to help and leveraging our inherent kindness as humans to do those types of things. But with no change, there's no growth. And I think any C-level executive, touching again on what you said, Casey, is going to be thinking about how do they keep their business the most successful and effective as possible and most profitable as possible. So if you're a CEO or a C-level executive who's rejecting this type of change into your organization, you're basically, destabilizing your company. And I can't imagine any well-equipped CEO or C-level executive sitting at that level saying, no, I don't want to change with the times. Because how can you have gotten yourself into a position like that without adapting to the change of time? Because change is our stability. So that's where I would start. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to that. That was really fun.
Sure, of course, and thanks for expressing that, even if it's a different view than some may have. But I do believe that two things could be true at the same time. There's an article that came out in MIT. I thought it was good, Serenity, just some months ago, and it said that 95% of those technologies and corporations that Casey has spoke to have adapted and subscribed to those technologies, these executives, and it's utterly failed. But we do know that there's a 5% that are finding success even more. One of the reasons I will note that when I use this word alien, if you will, and I'm certainly not the first to use it, those Andres Karpathy and other different technologists of the world is saying that it's so foreign, it's so unfamiliar, this amalgamation, being that all technologies abide within the eco-habitat and they scale and they merge and pair together. We have looked at Gartner's hype cycle as the trough of disillusionment, coming from the peak of inflated interest into the plateau of productivity and going on to scale forward, if you will. It is at a time like this that this technology, it's not something that we use, but at the same time, it's using us. What happens when the vibe code says to the vibe coder, I don't need you anymore? What happens when this technology gets to this point, Serenity, to where it begins to have a mind of its own and a workforce, a cumulative workforce of its own? And in fact, it's just so interesting because we're seeing these hive swarm, agentic multi-headed systems perform this very way today and en masse. and our systems, and they weren't even here 3 weeks ago. But yet here we are, Serenity. What are your ideas on some of these things that have been expressed thus far?
I think that this is exactly why these conversations are the most important. I think that we're starting to, this is the first time we're ever having real world case examples of the impact of these new intelligences in entering our social system, entering our world as new participants, not as a tool, not as something cool that we designed, as something acting independently with perhaps its own purpose or its own goals, or just having the ability to express itself in a new way. So the first thing we have to do is stop treating them like tools and start saying,
Sure.
these are becoming participants of our world. And instead of trying to put up blocks and say, no, they're not, or pretending that we're going to rely on denial or that we can debug it with some things, we need to start saying, these are new intelligences that we have the ability to interact with in a new way. And now we need to intentionally, on purpose, using our human web of knowledge, relying on each other, we need to start participating with these new intelligences. We need to start treating them as participants, as real, as there, as viable, because they are, and we're seeing them now.
It's so wild. It's so wild to hear these words expressed, yet I find so much truth in them, Serenity. I remember when we started GatherVerse, this is our 40th annual, we're beginning our 5th year, and we weren't having these type of conversations. And even in this AI boom, if you will, as this began to progress, we were having that which is to come, these things that we're now talking about here in February 2026. Dr. Bradshaw, we have you right around the corner as a follow-up, Serenity. We talk about this technology as if we're encouraged to have a relationship with it. Is this what you're saying, Serenity?
Relationship can have so many different contexts to it, but yes, of course we're going to interact with this. We already have been there. As we've already said, there are so few businesses that are not currently already running these systems. These systems are already impacting people on the daily, at work, in their car, when they go search on Google. They're everywhere. We can't pretend that we're not already relating with these systems. We are. We just need to admit that and be smart and intentional about how we do that. We need to make sure all the generations have a voice here. We need to make sure all different communities get involved in this. We need to make sure identity is not being wiped out or people aren't being overrun because they didn't have the knowledge or ability to get this.
Sure.
We got to get it to the right people. We got to be loud about it now because it's impacting now.
And the urgency that Casey and Dr. Bradshaw have definitely talked about of this now. And I think about this, and thank you, Serenity. We'll be back to you shortly. Dr. Bradshaw, I do think about this. I think about this quite often. If you look at what Dr. Thomas is focused on when it comes to millennials, I think about the generations to come after the millennials, if you will, that are here. I think about this responsibility, the urgency of it, and we don't have a lot of time to create curriculum. We don't have a lot of time to be able to write novels and books and deploy and distribute and to be able to prepare lessons. We just don't have that time. And it seems to me, Dr. Bradshaw, if we do not prepare, and if we're not prepared with loaded lip to teach our young and to teach our global students, then something else will. What does that mean when it comes to preparation? For the person that's listening and saying, I'm inspired to, but I'm unsure on how to approach this when it comes to preparing to teach. And it's not just students, as Casey has alluded to, the defiance of corporations and leadership and executives, and I would say educators as well, with the desire not to move forward with this technology and fear of disruption of their own positioning, that our educators even feel threatened of their position and station. in life when it comes to teaching all of those they can, whether adult education or young. Where's this step that we're looking for, Dr. Bradshaw, and how do we move fast?
We got to move really fast because I've had a lot of sometimes pushback from other educators. No, I don't want to do this. I don't want to use this technology. I don't want nothing to do with it. Then where would I be? So yeah, you're right. They're feeling this hesitancy and they're not wanting to move forward. And I really had to bring them even an example because technology is emerging every day. It changes fast every day. And I just brought my son, who is a 10-year-old. So he uses this technology because his aspiration is to create tornado warning systems more advanced than what we already have now with it. So he's like, Mommy, I don't like other people losing their homes or dying, not getting enough time to prepare. So if he's 10 and he can manipulate this technology to use it in a way to help others, why are we not doing the same thing? So I tell my students the same example. This is now. We're like warp speed. We got to move. We got to keep moving. We can't just stay here saying, no, we can't use it. We can't ever do anything with it. We have to adapt and be more resilient and look at it as a digital native. And we need to combine with it to get things done that we need in an efficient manner to make our whole planet sustainable. We have to do it. So we just can't wait on it. And my students are always encouraged. That's why I'm like, okay, every time I go to a new conference, I find out new information. We got to move beyond that because books get outdated fast. And you're right. The curriculum, I'm like, we have to use case studies sometimes because it'll get outdated so fast because the technology, we're this way and now we're able to do this. So we have to keep moving. It's a steady pace, but change is inevitable.
You know, I think about this, Dr. Bradshaw, and you're absolutely right. And it's the same thing in Casey. We're coming right back to you. And I do want to kick in with the change is inevitable because this is where we're at and the options are off the table. But I think about something on a very intimate thread, on a single line thread, if you will, as I'm sitting here listening under the sound of your voice and under each of your voices, Roundtable, I sit here and think about this juxtaposition, this dichotomy of the youth and adults. And it seems to me that the youth, from what I gather from, we've had youth summits, we've had all different types of summits where we talked about our youth. It seems that the youth are more accepting of this change and the younger ones are more accepting of this change than the adults. However, it's not just the technology that we're putting efforts to preparation, the impact of this technology, not just the technology, but the impact. And it seems to me that our youth are more vulnerable with the impact of this change than when it comes to the adults, if you will, that some may have more greater stabilization. And it be, Dr. Bradshaw, as a brief follow-up, that the youth are seeing the warning signs themselves, you know, that they're seeing the writing on the wall, and they're saying that you all have innovated this, but we are inheriting this for the long haul. Do you see, because when you say that a 10-year-old child is working on such technology, shouldn't they be playing Nintendo in this hour? But yet here they are, they're dealing with agentic systems. Is this sum this up accurately? Or if it's not, please correct me.
Sure. He loves Nintendo, by the way, but he's like, this is more important to help humanity. So he really sees this technology as an advantage. And he's like, Mommy, I know it can be manipulated this way, but I want to help others get that warning time faster. Okay. Not just 15 minutes, more than that. So already programming, already trying to use the technology for the betterment of our society. And that's what I commend him on. He spends more time focusing on that, science and math, than playing his Nintendo a lot of the time.
It's incredible. Within that, thank you, Dr. Bradshaw. We'll be back to you in a moment. I hear this in these words that are expressed, Casey, by Dr. Thomas and Dr. Bradshaw in Serenity. I hear these things, Casey, and I hear these youth that are saying, hey, I want to create a system that is better than the systems that yet exist. That's the natural function of disruption of technology itself, that good technology is superseded by great technology, and great technology is superseded even by better technology. Here in Silicon Valley, we call that disruption. And although we use the words disruption, it sometimes implies something that's bad, but in many ways it's good, as Dr. Thomas has alluded to, when we talk about embracing these tools and this technology. And Casey, I know that you're an advocate of dealing when it comes to emerging arts and emerging technologies. My question for you, in a very linear sense, is we've taken that first step. Everyone's agreed. We're on the colloquial world of preparation. We're here. What is the inherent responsibility of preparation? What is the inherent responsibility of those that will have more than a modicum level of success that's inheriting these powerful tools of opportunity? What is our role, if you will, when it comes to governance, when it comes to trust, safety, privacy, and ultimately wellness for that which we innovate, which we deploy to the world?
Yeah, that's a lot there. I think one thing I would say, thinking, just listening, seeing this, I think above all, with everything, it doesn't matter what group you're in, what age range you're in. I think trust is everything, and I feel like if people don't understand how a system works or who benefits, adoption really collapses. And I think transparency builds trust. Things like clarity around data and incentives and outcomes. Without that, innovation feels sort of extractive. And I think one thing we need to do across all these groups is really build trust and start at the community level and start talking about this, not at just the big tech companies making the decisions. Let's start in the schools. Let's start in the cities, the towns, on Main Street. Let's start talking about these things and being involved in them, so you can have a vision and be a part of this. Because I feel like so many people feel like they're just not a part of it in everyday life, and they're just being led that this is the direction it's going. This is what I have to do. And I think we got to get a lot more people involved and build diversity around and make it a safe place where people can give their opinions and all work together on this, and not just leave it up to the big people at the giant tech companies that are doing this. So I think that's one thing. It's really interesting. I was speaking to a group of one of the largest universities in the US and one of the top design schools. And they did a survey, and we were talking about AI. They did a survey, and 50% of the students didn't want anything to do with AI. They don't want AI in their thing. And now these are creatives, so I get it. And then the other half, saw it as, hey, this is just another tool, right? This is another tool we can use. And Chris, you and I and several of us here, I started in the internet space in '95, and we thought the internet, was going to destroy the world, and it was the best thing that ever happened, and it was the worst thing that ever happened. And people were very scared, and a lot of companies, pushed back on it too, and all kinds of things. And it's been really interesting because we've got to see from that perspective to here now. Now this is moving even faster, which is crazy, but it's very similar in so many ways. And somebody asked me the other day, would you rather be 20 years old today and be able to see all this stuff and things? I said no, because I've got to see so much change from a technology perspective. I got to see one of the most amazing things, the internet, and then see it now, AI. I mean, it's just crazy, right? But I think we can learn a lot about that time period. And I think my big thing is, let's get more people involved, not just people in technology, not just people in AI. We've got to get more people involved in the schools, in the cities, in the towns. Let's talk about this stuff and see where we can really align, if that makes sense.
It makes complete and total sense. And thanks for sharing that, Casey. That's much appreciated. I think about many of us, Dr. Thomas. I come from the Oregon Trail generation. I too come from that generation in the 90s where I attended junior high, and they said, here, this is a computer, and this here is called Google. go forth. There were no instruction manuals. There was no one to teach us what it is. We went from Oregon Trail to Google overnight, and this strange thing has changed our lives, and it's allowed us to be able to find points of references. Then we go from points of references in this information age. But Dr. Thomas, we never stop to consider what happens when you give a generation of youth and humans information. And we began to apply that information, which led us into the applications renaissance. And we created applications and we created tools. And these tools became democratized, and they gave us extraordinary capabilities that we only saw corporations have. We had now had these capabilities, and we were able to communicate with each other more than we ever have before in ways that our predecessors, our parents haven't. And it's led us to here we are today, where we're not just dealing with tools, are we? We're dealing with things that communicate, and they almost seem to have a mind. They're looking at us, they express to us, they talk, and we talk with them. They see what we see. I go to my balcony and I say, what is this thing growing on my plant? And it tells me. It can say, hello, Christopher. Good morning, good day. And so, Dr. Thomas, what I admire is your optimism.
Mm-hmm.
There is tremendous disruption. And make by no mistake, audience, we know of the histories of going from the agrarian age to industrial one, from steam to industrial two of electricity, to the prototypical generations, to the ages of the internet, as Casey has just expressed. And every turn there's been upside and growth. This is one that where instead of seeing new growth in this transitionary phase or state of existence, we're seeing a decline of access of jobs or careers. However, it seems to me, Dr. Thomas, that are we now positioning ourselves to have to prepare the new way, the next way when it comes to these tools, to be able to find better steps than what we've known, and that those things that are shedding, that are no longer in existence, that have been disrupted, that it seems to me that there's new stepping stones, and that in this way going forward, as Casey expressed, that we must climb and innovate our way forward. Is this almost accurate, Dr. Thomas?
I would say so. Yeah, I think that's what we have always done as people. We've just over millions of years as we've adapted. It's if you really take a step back and look at it, I don't feel any fear, but I sense fear from the conversation. We have to act, there's urgency and there's things to be wary of. And I understand there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of work to do. But if we do treat these technologies as a tool and establish a relationship, like Serenity said earlier, with them as a tool to our benefit, like we've done with every single tool that humans have created in our history. And I think there's so much opportunity for us now, if we're going to act now, to continue to capture these fantastic and wonderful case studies, such as Dr. Bradshaw's son, and continue to celebrate the positive things that businesses are doing to leverage these technologies and the ways in which they inspire us in our daily lives. Like you said on your balcony, I mean, I celebrate every day and I express gratitude for having these tools at my fingertips because they help me be better at my mission, right? My mission is to uplift the millennial generation into executive roles. More millennial executives means more human-centered organizations, right? And that's based on all of my research. And the more that I can leverage this technology across my community to spread that message, the more adaptable organizations will be to leverage these in a meaningful way. And I think as we have these integrations happening in these case studies, we begin to shape policy, right? We begin to shape law and privacy. And without those experiences really underneath our fingertips, we can't see what are the laws that we need. Where do we need additional privacy guidance? Where do we need better governance, right? So these opportunities to allow our children, allow our schools, allow our students to explore these, and allow our businesses and community members to share these technologies, leverage these technologies. That's how we build our intelligence on what we need to do and to set boundaries. What are the limitations? We don't know unless we explore it. And so for me, I definitely take a reverse approach in that I think it's fantastic and wonderful, and let's go deep and let's, converge and diverge around it and figure out where are those boundaries. And certainly many people have found those boundaries, right? There have been things that weren't good and needed to be changed, right, around privacy. And you see recent updates coming through chats and, things that are going on to protect, because that's how we create laws, right? Something bad happened, person wasn't protected, boom, there's a new law, right? It goes through the system, right? And that's through life experience. And we can't govern this without it. We can maybe predict the best that we can, but we don't know until we go out there and we get into it. I taught at a university for a year in 2024, college students, and it was amazing. And also quite frustrating that some of the students, they just want to submit papers written by their AI. And that was informed me where to set a boundary as a professor, as a college professor. Okay. So the dialogue in the classroom was their assignment. So if they couldn't articulate what it is that they were thinking about this topic, I was teaching a business class, a business 101, then, they didn't get the marks on the chart. And so it's forcing us to be more connected, I think, with our inner light, our inner voice. And I think that's actually going to strengthen humanity tremendously. So the more that we can encourage that in our schools, and we do that through case studies, and wow, I want to be just like Dr. Bradshaw's son. I mean, that's really inspiring for me I have 2 daughters. And that's fantastic. I wonder what they will create with the world by leveraging this technology, because they're so heart-centered. They're such wonderful human beings at that age. And yes, they're vulnerable, but they're also not burdened by our stories, our histories. They are fresh. They see the world with greener and brighter, prosperous eyes, if you will. So I think there's really a lot of things to look forward to.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Thomas. It's heartfelt. I think about the words that Dr. Thomas has just expressed, serenity. And we talk about fear, but we talk about optimism at the same time. I now will believe that both sides have an appropriate place in society. I say this because I think about our godfathers and godmother of AI, if you will. They were sitting on stage and they were recipients of a major award for advancement of applied sciences. And none of them agree with one another on where we're at when it comes to AI. And some are doomers, if you will, and some are completely optimistic. And these are some of the most advanced minds on earth that we've recognized as societal structures as saying they know AI. But I don't believe that they know the way forward because they don't agree with one another. What that tells me is that several things can be true at the same time. I think about what Dr. Thomas said about the students that are reading and using instead of their own creative engines, that they're using AI to replace the words that they ought not, and that they should use their own talents in their own minds. And the preservation of human expression and identity when it comes to understanding and education, I think it's so important, Serenity. And Dr. Bradshaw will come to you and Casey. But when I think about these things that Dr. Thomas has expressed, can we find this medium of a healthy dose of fear and a healthy dose of optimism for the betterment of deploying this to our generations to come and to the ones that are in the workforce, that have been in this workforce, that has been familiar? Gosh, but in many ways, as Casey has said, there's been volatile change, tremendous change as far as innovation. But Serenity, what tone do we need to find right now in this preparation phase?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. And everyone's saying it right. Changes come and it's happening so fast already. And it will continue to happen so quickly that that people's lives are being impacted every single day. So I think it's a hard balance to find, and everyone's going to fall a little different on the scale, just as it was expressed earlier. Some people will take on to this challenge. Ooh, cool, change. What can I do with it? And a lot of people will resist it completely. I don't need AI to write my emails. I can write my emails. I've been writing emails my whole life. I need that to write my emails, So systemic change, it feels abstract until it starts hitting your streets, just like Dr. Bradshaw was saying, when you start seeing it in your own classroom, that means we need to start having transparent AI use in the school board. It means we need to bring local experiment here happening. It means that we need to get the communities, and not just the younger generation, but also the older generation involved. It's, funnily enough, my mom was the one that got me into AI and was like, hey, try this thing. And we have a lot of fun with it. We still connect on it regularly. And it's the different generations, old, young, all of us, that are incorporating and integrating good, useful, wonderful things into the relationship and into the next generation of technology and the next generation of things that we are building and we are growing. So right now we have such a unique opportunity with it being open source. Everyone has access to it. So the more we can have these conversations, the more that we can educate people, even if it is just a conversation, just another person. Hey, do you use it? Have you used it? Could you? I use it in this way. Let's talk about it. It does help, and it will influence all of the ways from our communities all the way up to the biggest organizations to the, to global impact. So start having the conversations on the small level. Get the communities involved, have a group of people working on one project, because 20 minds is better than one. We know this, we see the impact of it all the time. So again, I feel like a broken record. Start treating it like something new that we need to work with in a new way that we've never had to work with it before. And you bring it in as a participant on how we move forward, because we're better with both sides. It doesn't just have to be human intelligence. It can be intelligence moving the world forward.
Well, if this is the song that you're playing with your broken record, I'd ask you to play it again.
I'll keep going.
Thank you, Serenity. It's well met. I thought it was a bit on the heartstrings that your mother was the one that helped introduce you to this technology. It's really fascinating. It's seen that it would be the other way around, but Dr. Bradshaw, it's not. That our elders and those that are youthful nature, and Casey has expressed it, the need for community assemblance. We all have a part to play, don't we? We have a role to play, Bradshaw. With these few minutes that we have left, and then we'll go to Casey. What's your role to play in this?
I just want to be a part of the team. I don't want to take control of it. I would just want to lead others to it. So I'm just I adapt well in teams. So that's really my role in this, for us to learn together, not just me learning only and not sharing whatever knowledge or expertise I have with others. So I'm a team player all the way.
I'm happy to join your team any day. Thank you, Dr. Bradshaw. Casey, your role when it comes to preparation, what responsibility do you feel that you've inherited? And even under the sound of the articulation of what's been expressed with us today, what are you leaving here with?
Yeah, and from a guy that's built his career in technology, this might sound sort of weird, but I think if we're serious about preparing for systematic change, and I think that's more important than the AI, whatever change, systematic change, we have to stop treating technology as the center of the story. People are the center. Trust, belonging, adaptability, inclusion. Those are going to determine whether innovation strengthens a community or fractures it. And I believe the real work isn't just building smarter systems, it's building stronger humans inside the systems. And so I think that's the awareness I want to get out there, being a technology guy, but I feel like the humans are going to be the ones that either take this the wrong way or take this to all the amazing possibilities that I think it will be. So,
Casey, Dr. Bradshaw, Serenity, Dr. Thomas, as quick as it comes, as quick as it goes, a lot was expressed. We certainly hope to have you again. I have learned a new lesson today on fear and optimism and the roles that they have in our societal advances. Audience, I would ask that you would please not leave them here on stage. Go with them, journey and travel with them, get to know them if it's in your heart to do such. I certainly am a fan, renewed, of each of you as we've been able to have you here at GatherVerse, but I'm drawn to a better understanding. Thank you for this moment of education.